Robert Watt, who received his teaching certificate from Western Washington University in 1972, is your commencement speaker. Bob Watt is an educator by training, but his career stretches far beyond the classroom. He spent more than a decade at the helm of 2 human service agencies, first Youth Eastside Services, and then Family Services of Seattle, King County. He moved to Seattle City Hall, where he served as deputy to Mayor Norm Rice for more than 5 years. Mr. Watt was later president and CEO of the Greater Salem Chamber of Commerce, and most recently, vice president for global corporate citizenship and state and local government relations at the Boeing Company. Amid such variety, there are 2 common themes woven through Mr. Watt's career. One is a love of learning new things. The other is his passion for early childhood education. As deputy mayor of Seattle, Mr. Watt spearheaded Seattle's first Families and Education Levy in 1990. Through this groundbreaking initiative, residents fund programs designed to help Seattle's children be safe, healthy, and ready to learn. In 2011, Mr. Watt and Mayor Rice co-chaired the campaign committee, which helped the voters decide to renew this critical levy. Mr. Watt and his wife Juanita are both ardent supporters of Western. We appreciate their sage counsel, especially in the area of education. Please join me in welcoming the 2010 Woodring College of Education distinguished alumnus and friend of Western Washington University, Mr. Bob Watt.
Stephanie, is it your fault that I followed those 2 fabulous speakers? President and Mrs. Shepard, Western Washington University Board of Trustees, esteemed faculty and staff, parents, grandparents, other family and friends, and most important of all, you, members of the Western Washington University class of 2012. You can't possibly know what an amazing privilege it is to be standing here in this room full of learners. Truly, it is a gift I will cherish forever. Starting well before my wonderful days at Western, I wanted to know more about how our brains work their magic. Today, as a member of the Institute for Learning and Brain Sciences Advisory Board, I get to observe as scientists safely peek inside baby brains, watching them grow and change and make new physical connections in response to the world around them. That's why today, I want to talk to you about your first 2,000 days and your next 2,000 days. I begin with baby Emma, just 42 minutes old. Little Emma has become world-renowned because of something she did in that 42nd minute of her life. A famous scientist stood in front of her, looked her in the eye, and stuck out his tongue. What do you think she did? This is the interactive part. What do you think she did? She stuck out her tongue right back at them. That's exactly right. Now, I am not suggesting that you too could become world famous by sticking out your tongue at life. That's actually already been done by Gene Simmons of Kiss fame. You can ask your parents later. I am, however, making the point that all of us are born with an astonishing ability to imitate, influence, and be influenced by the people around us. Even from our first minutes, we learn through interaction and we yearn for human understanding. Your first 2,000 days, roughly 5.5 years for those of you who aren't math majors, were an amazing journey, which has many parallels to your next 2,000 days. Do you remember those first 2,000 days? You were so cute, right, parents and grandparents? You are also building the brain that has served you so well ever since. Born with 100 million plus neurons, you added 700 new physical connections per second during those first 2,000 days if you were a typically developing baby. That's right, you made more connections per hour during your first 5 years than you do on Facebook in a year. Those new brain connections formed in response to interactions with the caring adults around you. Yes, those interactions had to be live human to live human. Television does not work to produce brain development when we are very young, and many would argue that it seldom, if ever, does. Remember when you were 2 years old and would stare at your parent while you were reaching out to stick your finger into the light socket? Well, you were conducting an important piece of scientific research. You were learning about the nature of the other minds around you. You may have been in for a serious jolt one way or the other, but this ability to understand other people's minds is what makes us human. You are also learning that going where there is trouble is sometimes the very best way to learn something important. Now it is time for next in the adventure that is your life. I have no idea if you're going on for further formal education, headed to a job, the Peace Corps, or maybe the beach. But I do know that you will want to stay a curious learner, seeking out experiences that broaden and deepen your skills, just like in those first 2,000 days. During your next 2,000 days, rapidly developing networks of connections will once more be a big part of your life, but no less crucial to your success. Most of those new connections will be external to your brain. That awesome network of brain structures created during those first 2,000 days will, of course, remain vital. But now that power is not simply inside your brain, your computer, or even your iPhone. It's in that network of people who care, who believe in and are willing to follow and help you because you genuinely understand and care about them. If you seek to understand before seeking to be understood, you will connect with people in ways that will build powerful networks of support that will last a lifetime. Which brings me to this story. Daddy, we learned how to make babies today at school, said third grader Lily to her shocked dad. But Dad was a Western Washington University education major, Woodring School, just like me. So he kept his cool and sought to understand. Well, that is interesting, honey. How do you make babies? It's simple, replied Lily. You just change the Y to I and add ES. Seek to understand before seeking to be understood. During the early days, getting better every day forever was simply how you lived. I assure you that if you continue to find joy in getting better every day forever, you will not only be a lifelong learner, you will be the kind of person that everyone wants to be around. Those imitation skills you were born with will come in handy now too, especially if you deliberately seek out people who are superb at doing whatever they do and copy their best skills, making them your own. Going where there is trouble and getting involved is just as important now as it was when you were a defiant 2-year-old. Seeing the trouble spots in life and being willing to constructively help out when things are tough is the surest way I know to be successful. All this new research on brain plasticity shows that the physical structures in our brains can continue to be changed at any age, parents and grandparents, any age. So if you don't like the way your brain is working today, there is solid evidence that with some hard work, you can change it. Even people who seem trapped in the proverbial vicious cycle can change their brains so that a virtuous cycle ensues. Oh sure, just like in your first 2,000 days, you'll stick your finger in a few light sockets, or at least try. You'll sometimes fall down and occasionally need help getting up. And yes, you may even cry like a baby sometimes when faced with a challenge that seems like it's maybe just too much. But if you build strong mutual networks of support during those next 2,000 days, including the Western Washington University Alumni Association, those next 2,000 days, and maybe even all the days of your life, will work out pretty darn well. And perhaps someday, something like this will happen to you. Our then 3-year-old granddaughter was visiting. She loved to bang away on the keyboard in front of the computer, watching closely as the letters popped up on the screen. One day I asked her what she was writing. A story. What's the story about? I asked. I don't know, she replied. I can't read yet. True story. Like my granddaughter, I can't read the story of your lives, but I know that you have the power to write your stories in a way that will make a positive difference in our world. Everyone here today, young, old, or in between, has the chance to make their next 2,000 days a fabulous adventure of learning and new connections that will enhance your life and the lives around you. I hope I've given you something to think about as you go through those next 2,000 days, and maybe as you help guide others through their first 2,000 days. In closing, all I want to say is this. Come on, this is the interactive part too. Mr. President, my work here is finished.
Thank you, Bob. Bob has a wedding to go off to now, but really appreciate your sharing with us.